Mayor Becky, Mayor of the City, and with me is Cedric Grant, the Executive Director of the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans, and Aaron Miller, the City's Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. As you all know, yesterday we received torrential downpours throughout the city, 5 inches to as much as 10 inches in some areas, with reported rainfall of 8 inches in mid-city, 6 inches or more in parts of Lakeview and Gentilly. And again, these are rainfall amounts that range from the 10-year flood event to a 100-year flood event, depending on where you are, which is to say that, you know, hopefully we shouldn't expect these types of events as frequently, but we've unfortunately had a couple of them in a short period of time. All 24 Sewage and Water Board drainage pumping stations were operational and active throughout the event yesterday. Our capacity is such that it can handle 1 inch the first hour and a ½ inch subsequently. And so when you get those amounts of rain in a short period of time, it's going to take many hours for the pumping system to catch up. And so while we appreciate that folks are frustrated about the standing water or that flooded their homes or businesses or cars last night, this is the capacity that we have, which is, again, as much capacity as any pumping station system in the country. We have ordered an after-action report for folks who are wondering, just to make sure that everything was done as perfectly as possible in these events. We'll also receive reports about the outfall canal pumping system not working. It's important to note that the outfall canals at 17th Street, London Avenue, and Orleans Avenue are made for storm surge events when the floodgates are closed, to pump water out into the lake when surge might be otherwise pushing it in. They are not intended to be used for rainfall events like we had. And so if you were out there or you had questions about why those may not have been on, it's that they were not supposed to be on, and the 24 interior pumping stations are what is pumping the water out of our system. We had our police, fire, and EMS responded to over 200 calls for service for emergency calls related to flooding. Minor injuries only were reported, and we're very fortunate that due to the hard work of our public safety personnel, there were no loss of life. At this moment, we still have dozens, if not more, stranded vehicles that are blocking roadways and intersections. We are asking folks to move those vehicles. We also have Public Works and NOPD out that are doing courtesy tows of vehicles to the side of roadways, particularly parking lanes nearby. So if you see your car being moved, that's what it's for. In underpasses and on and off ramps, we are having to tow those vehicles to the city's impound lot, but they will be able to be retrieved free of charge. Streetcar service is going to be being restored, and again, so we did have to move a few vehicles off of the streetcar tracks to parking lanes. If you're in a neutral ground that's not part of streetcar service, you can leave your car there till the end of the day today. We won't start towing from neutral grounds until after midnight tonight. Just generally, because of the debris and the stranded vehicles that are out, we're asking folks to, please just avoid the areas that flooded and these major intersections while our public safety officials and Public Works has the opportunity to remove vehicles from the roadway. We have opened 311, our call center. You just dial 311 from your phone until 6 p.m. You can get information about how to make flood claims, what to do after storm damage, as well as information about debris pickup. And again, that's going to be operational all day tomorrow, but then from today until 6 p.m. tonight. Sanitation will pick up carpet and debris. It has to be bundled, though, and piled. If you have limbs or other woody debris that's more than 4 feet in length, please tie it up and put it out curbside. Same thing goes for carpet. Please put it in piles. We will get to it by the second pass this week. So we just need folks to be patient as you're putting stuff out. It may take the sanitation haulers till the second pass to get that information. Also on the sanitation piece, if you don't have residential pickup, if you're a commercial hauler and your business that maybe had carpet, you need to do that debris removal through your commercial debris hauler. We are expecting more rain this week, which Aaron can speak about in a minute. Because of heavy saturation levels, that is going to mean that there are in some instances where there will be water pooling where it may not otherwise do so. And so we just need people to be cautious and vigilant. Take the time, like we have right now, between rain the next few days, clear in front of catch basins, take the debris out of the street so that we're not causing more issues whenever we do get sudden downpours. And with that, I'll turn it over to Aaron Miller and then Cedric Grant, and then we'll be taking questions.
As Ryan mentioned, the National Weather Service forecasters have advised us that throughout this week, we can expect a 10 to 30% chance of additional rain. The most severe of that weather looks to be tomorrow afternoon, late afternoon. And we'll continue to monitor that forecast and provide updates as necessary. But as was mentioned, with the current saturation levels of the ground and the water that we've seen over the last few days, any additional rain will result in quick runoff. So we want residents to be particularly aware during rain when they're out on the roads. Watch out for any flash flooding or ponding, and pay close attention to weather over the next few days.
We're going to continue our pumping operation through the day and night until this is done. We're pumping the canals out and down. The goal being to get us back to where we can take on the next event, and we'll stay 24/7. All those stations will be manned and operational. As everyone has said here, groundwater now becomes an issue because the ground is saturated, so it won't take much with a little bit of rain to begin to see ponding and the like. So be careful in that, and quite honestly, we encourage people to just try and be safe as they can as they get to this event, because we believe we've seen the worst of it, but you never know, and so we all have to stay vigilant.
Thank you, Cedric, and it's just important. You know, these no-notice rain events are becoming more frequent, and so I think we're going back and looking at all of our plans to see what improvements we can continue to make sure that these things go smoothly and that we're communicating as effectively as we can to the public. It's really important that people just remain vigilant when we get a rainstorm like we had yesterday that sits over the city for a couple of hours and dumps 8 inches or more in an isolated area. We're going to have flooding. And we're asking the public to be patient because it's going to take many, many hours to pump that rainfall out of the city. We will also, if you did have flooding to your business or home or your vehicle, you can call 311. They are logging that so that we can better service those areas, particularly for debris removal. And so with that, happy to take any questions.
I know you said it was, you brought up a good point. 8 inches, it's a lot of rain, so that's something to keep in mind. It's not just going to go away. You brought up that all the pumps were operational. We got a lot of calls that some of the pumps might not be working, or especially in the Carrollton area. While they were operational, was there any issues with them? Was there anything that prevented them from pumping correctly, even the slightest bit?
Yeah, we don't have any information that would suggest that the pumps were not working as designed. When you get that much rainfall in a short period of time, it takes time for them to catch up. What also happens is, particularly lower lying areas in the lowest parts of the city, the water goes to those areas as the system takes time to catch up. So, for example, even in an area where I lived, the water rose before it went down. That's a normal occurrence when we have this much rain in this period of time, but we're going back to look to make sure that there weren't any minor issues that cause issues, but at this point we don't believe there were. And again, I think particularly the folks that live at the outfall canals, 17th, London Avenue, and Orleans Avenue, there were questions about why those were not on. They're not intended to work in this type of event. Our 24 drainage pumping stations have the capacity to move as much rain as you possibly can in a short period of time. Those are made, again, to prevent what happened during Hurricane Katrina, when you have surge that's pushing water and not allowing water to be pumped out of the canals. In this instance, the canals were pushing water into the lake and operating as they were designed.
Is there any areas underwater right now still?
There are not any areas underwater right now, but the waters that we did have pumped out today, when we had the short period of rain, it did cause some additional ponding, and we got some calls in of water that was continuing to come back up in a couple areas. I think that because of the way the system is working, all that is back down, but we should expect if we get a couple inches of rain from an isolated thunderstorm, you could again have that over the next few days. And tomorrow is the potential for the heaviest rain tomorrow afternoon. So we're just going to remain vigilant and keep everything operating as it's designed. Mark?
Any plans to ask for an emergency declaration?
We don't have any plans to issue an emergency declaration at this time. We've been in constant communication with the governor's office. The governor reached out to the mayor, and we've been in touch with his staff. They're going to be providing some additional assistance with on and off ramps and removing debris in cars. But we don't, at this point, anticipate an emergency declaration. As we get more information about how much flooding there were in businesses and vehicles, that may change, but at this point, we don't believe that those thresholds have been met.
And is there a windshield survey or something else going on right now?
Yes, so our fire, EMS, and police have been doing a windshield survey since early this morning. They have driven most of the city at this point and gotten us initial damage assessments and particularly looking for areas that had businesses or homes take on water. There are going to be hundreds of vehicles that got water, and so we know that's particularly in Lakeview, Gentilly, Mid-City, Treme is the kind of hotspot for that. We want folks to give us information if they had businesses or homes take on water, so that we can triage response effectively. Particularly, debris removal will focus in the areas where we get the most reports. We do have a heat map up that shows where we have reports in concentration up on ready.nola.gov. We would remind folks to go to ready.nola.gov. We've actually taken over the entire homepage on nola.gov with information about how to respond to claims and how to handle your cars and your homes. It's really, really, really important that our residents remember with smartphones and iPhones, document any storm damage and rain damage you can, because it's really important for the insurance process and for our processes moving forward. So we're asking folks to go to ready.nola.gov or follow Ready NOLA on Twitter for information about what you need in these instances.
Is there anything that the city can do to prevent this type of flooding from sitting for hours in the future should we experience this type of rainfall again?
Anytime we're going to have multiple inches in a short period of time, you're going to have street flooding in isolated areas. I mean, this is this is part of the living here, living with that threat. These no-notice events, particularly at the severity that we had yesterday, unfortunately, are going to continue to have water sit on the streets for periods of time while the pumps catch up. Again, the system works for an inch the first hour and a half inch thereafter. That does not mean that the water in the street is going to go down an inch or a half inch each hour. That's how much rainfall the system is able to handle system-wide. So what also happens is where you have 8 inches in one part of the system, but only maybe 4 in another, that 8 inches is still putting strain on the entirety of the system as it moves through. And so, folks can do the math. It may take 10, 12 hours in some instances to get the water out when you have that much rain in a period of time. And so I think we're going to continue to educate residents about how much time it takes. But it's just really important for people to be patient and also be vigilant as we let the pumping system do what it's intended to do over a period of time. What doesn't help is when folks drive through flooded water and are pushing cars into the road. You know, when we ask folks to stay inside or to stay out of flooded areas, that's for a reason. We had a lot of instances last night where vehicles were pushing water into cars, into homes and businesses. The NOPD was looking for folks who were driving through Wake at greater than 5 miles per hour. They did not issue any citations last night, but I can guarantee you in future storms we'll be continuing to monitor that for folks who are causing destruction to people's business and property.
And is it safe to say any debris in storm in the drains could have contributed to this even more?
Look, we do a lot of catch basin cleaning, and folks need to remove the debris from the front of their catch basins. Particularly, you know, a flood like last night will leave sand, soil, leaves, wood in front of a catch basin. You need to go outside your house and help your neighbors and help clean that. But the system itself overall is intended to handle small amounts of debris, and so that's why you have those catch basin covers in front of them so that they don't go into the system, but you still need to clear that from out in front of it. Anything else? Last one.
Okay. This is for both you guys. As you learn more about what this event was and compare it to earlier events that have occurred in the last couple of years, are y'all looking at, number one, potentially asking for more money under SELA to increase the ability of pumps to go beyond 10 inches, the 10-year level that you're at now? And secondly, are you using this in any way to look at what areas still need to have non-structural assistance through elevation or other issues?
So yes, good questions. We are constantly using information from rainfall and flooding to better prepare us for the future. So one of the underlying messages that obviously we all had to take from Katrina is that we had to rebuild back stronger. We've elevated the building codes, so whenever some people make substantial improvements to homes, they have to be at an elevated level even above the FEMA requirements. We're continuing to look at that. We're even overlaying information from the flooding 2 weeks ago versus the flooding last night to see where we have issues. Because of the additional money that we got from the FEMA road settlement, we were able to get additional hazard mitigation dollars. We're using those hazard mitigation dollars to improve drainage basins, so entire neighborhoods, Broadmoor, Lakeview, Gentilly, other areas that Cedric can speak about. We're also having to rethink the way we build infrastructure, particularly using more green infrastructure, so that we're not just pumping water out of the system all the time. A lot of people call this living with water or the Dutch methods, but one of the reasons why we can't absorb rainfalls like we had is because historically we have pumped water out. There's not enough, the saturation levels aren't allowed to hold water in the system. So we're constantly looking and using lessons from each event to apply to the future. We're continuing to invest records amount of money in major drainage across the city. Obviously we have the SELA system uptown and along the Claiborne corridor, but we're also investing one-time money from the hazard mitigation program to improve drainage in other areas of the city, and we'll continue to do so. SELA is up for additional authorization, so we'll continue to work with the congressional delegation to make sure that it is continually reauthorized, and that's an ongoing effort with Senators Kennedy and Cassidy. And thank you all, and we'll give additional information later this afternoon.